everyone, it's Miss Terry, and I'm here to talk about my September selections for students in grades 7 through 8. We're going to go through some fiction, and then we'll go through some nonfiction, and then I have some new graphic novels for you today as well. This first story is called Alone in the Woods, and this is the story about two friends, Jocelyn and Alex, and actually they're kind of ex-friends at this point. All of a sudden, Alex has decided that Joss isn't really interested in the same things that she is, and they've grown apart and they aren't really speaking very much, but their family is still very close friends. And they end up going on a trip to the northern Wisconsin into the woods, and the two girls are kind of stuck together. Joss is kind of hoping that this will be her opportunity to kind of reconnect with Alex, and maybe they can rebuild their friendship. And they end up going on this tubing trip, which actually forces them to get trapped together in the woods as they get lost, hopelessly lost, away from their family and their friends, and they're trying to find their way back. So it's also a bit of a survival story. It's told from both girls' point of view, so it talks not only about what they're dealing with right now in the story in the woods, but also what has kind of happened to their friendship. So that's called Alone in the Woods. More Than Just a Pretty Face is the story of a boy and a girl, and actually two girls, but the boy's name is Daniel, and he's very popular, he's very good looking, he has a lot of friends, but he's in love with a girl, and his dad and a lot of people think that he's just not smart enough for this girl, and he's hoping that he can change that. And when an all academic competition is going to happen at school, he decides, I'm going to win this, and I'm going to prove to everyone that he, not her, he is more than just a pretty face. So he enlists the help of his friend Bisma, who actually his parents had hoped at one point that they were going to get married, but he asks her to help him win this academic bowl and also the girl of his dreams. But then he discovers that maybe true love is a little bit closer than he originally thought. So that's More Than Just a Pretty Face. This next one is called The Retake. This is also another friendship story about Zoe and Laura, and they've been best friends forever, and then Laura kind of ditches Zoe, and Zoe is wondering what happened. I wish I could just do things better, when an app suddenly appears on her phone, and it's a magical app that allows her to go back in time and try to change things. And she thinks, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go back, find out what happened to my friendship, and see if I can repair it. So that's called The Retake. The Disasters is a story about a group of kids who have flunked out of an elite space academy and end up together running away from a group that has killed all of the people at the academy. And now they are on the run, and they're trying to figure out exactly what happened, and who this group is, and how can they save the rest of the universe from this plot to take over. And so that's called The Disasters. I think if you like movies like the Guardians of the Galaxy, you probably would really enjoy this. This next one is called Remedy. It is a little bit on the creepy side, but it's a good read if you liked movies like Everything, Everything. And this is a story about a girl named Kara, and she is 14 years old, and she's had a mysterious, debilitating illness since she was in 3rd grade. Very, very sick. It's kind of an autoimmune disease, so she's basically been homeschooled since then. Her mom is very involved in her care, almost too involved in her care. And it now has this YouTube video where she posts all of these videos about what's wrong with her and what they're trying to do. And now her mom is also trying to raise money to help pay for her care. And she convinces her mom that she's really behind in school because she's missed out on so many days due to her illness. She convinces her mom to hire a tutor, and it's another boy named Xavier. And Xavier is starting to question Kara's illness and her mother's possible role in it. So it's called The Remedy. This next one is for sports enthusiasts. This is called Bump, and this is about a girl named MJ whose father has passed away, and he was really in love with pro wrestling, and MJ is as well, and she's determined to become a pro wrestler herself. And she ends up meeting up with Mr. Aurelio, and he has a pro wrestling kind of like a club where kids can come and learn how to become a wrestler. Well, unfortunately, they kind of draw the attention of this bureaucrat who really just wants to shut the school down. And MJ is determined to help keep it open and to keep her new friends that she's found in the wrestling world going. So that's called Bump. This next one is a take on the Sleeping Beauty story. This one is called Sisters Ever After Thornwood. And you probably all have heard about Rosalind, or Sleeping Beauty, the one who fell asleep. But she also had a younger sister named Bryony. And Bryony finds herself awake before the rest of the castle is awake. And she actually sees the prince kiss her sister and wake everyone up. But she knows that the prince is not who he says he is. And the thorns and all of the other parts of the curses don't seem to be receding now that the prince has kissed her. So if you like retakes of your favorite fairy tales, then you would enjoy Sisters Ever After Thornwood. This next one is called The Unstoppable Wasp, and this is about a girl named Nadia. And Nadia actually has a little bit of Black Widow in her. She actually escaped the Russian Red Room where the Black Widow had come from, and she's been adopted by Janet Van Dyne, who is the Wasp in the Ant-Man series. And now she is a young teenage girl. She's got all of these incredible skills, and she also suffers from bipolar. She's also been diagnosed as bipolar, so she has a lot of health issues that she's dealing with, and that she's trying to take care of herself while she's also worrying about plots from evil scientists who are trying to destroy the planet. So if you like superhero stories, you'll enjoy this, but if you like the idea of superheroes as teens, you definitely will enjoy this. This one is The Unstoppable Wasp. This next one is very timely. It's called A Shot at Normal, and it's a story about a girl who her name is Juniper, and her family, the Jade family, they're very, her parents are aging hippies. They are homeschooled, they live on a farm, everything organic. They are really against mainstream life. And Juniper is not vaccinated, and her family doesn't believe in it. And she ends up contracting measles and accidentally passing it on to a baby who then dies. Well, this horrifies Juniper, and she decides that she really wants to be vaccinated so something like this never happens again. And her parents say no. And she ends up going to the library to see if she can figure out how she can get vaccinated even without her parents' permission. She meets Noah, a boy who is determined to help her, and she decides, I'm going to sue my parents. So it's called A Shot at Normal. This next one is in the horror genre. This one is called 13. This is about a boy named Adam who was born on New Year's Day in the year 2000, along with many other people. Well, there's a strange cult that has determined that people who were born on New Year's Day 2000 do not deserve to live, and they are systematically going through and killing all of them. Well, now it's the year 2013, and Adam is one of the 13 remaining survivors of the 2000 New Year's Eve babies, and now he is determined to stop this cult from basically destroying him. This is a little bit on the gruesome side, so if you don't like that kind of a story, you're not going to enjoy this, but if you like a very action-packed, a little bit bloody story, you'll enjoy 13. So those are the fiction stories I have. Let's go through some of the nonfiction. This first one is a drawing book. It's called Drawing Chibi. If you're interested in the Japanese style of animation of chibi, then you will enjoy the step-by-step instructions on how to draw your own chibi characters. And I apologize if I'm not saying that correctly. This one is called Walk Toward the Rising Sun, and this is about a boy named Jur Dwani, and he, in the 1980s, was growing up in the Sudan. Very typical young boy, wanted to get an education, make something of his life, end up being a soldier for his country that he truly believed in, but he really became a child soldier, and he is one of the lost boys of the Sudan. And this is his story of him determining that being a soldier is not exactly what he was hoping it was going to be. It's not really protecting his family and his friends, and as more and more of the young men around him are dying, he decides to leave, and he is able to come to the United States. He ends up getting named as a UN Goodwill Ambassador, and this is his story from being a child soldier to an ambassador of peace. It's a true story. This next one is called Big Apple Diaries, and this is about a young girl, and she lives in New York City. She lives half the time with her dad, who is Puerto Rican and lives in Manhattan itself, and then the rest of the time with her white mother, who lives in Queens. And she's basically your typical middle school girl. She's got a new crush, she's dealing with teachers, embarrassing moments, friendship, and she writes it all down in a diary format that you might enjoy. And again, this is a true story. Rolling Warrior is a story of a protester. Her name is Judy, and when she was 5, she was paralyzed by polio and ended up in a wheelchair. And this is the story of her fight for rights for those who are disabled like herself. She, at one point, the school wouldn't let her come to school because they deemed her a fire hazard because of her wheelchair. She was denied her teaching license and she fought for that. And then she led 150 disabled people to the longest sit-in protest in history in San Francisco. And so this talks about her fight for rights for every able-bodied person. This next one is called Girlhood, and these are teens around the world in their own voices, and this is individual stories of 30 teens from 27 different countries, all trying to figure out who they are and what their place in the world is. It's all told through diary entries, photographs, as well as short stories, all compiled. So if you're interested in a glimpse of what other teenagers in the world, what their lives are like, this would be a good choice for you. They Better Call Me Sugar is the story of Sugar Rogers, who became an all-star WNBA players, that's basketball, growing up in very difficult neighborhood. Both of her siblings ended up in and out of prison. When she eventually perfected her three-point shot, she was hustling money from drug dealers on her street by challenging them to one-on-one games. And this talks about her ability to rise above that and end up going to college and playing basketball. So it's called They Better Call Me Sugar. Race to the Bottom of the Earth is a historical novel about two people who are racing to do the first unaided, unsupported solo crossing of Antarctica. So this took place in 2018. Captain Lewis Rudd decided he was going to do this, but there was another athlete, Colin O'Brady, who said, no, I'm going to do this. And this is a story of the two of them trying to be the first to finish that task. It also gives you a little bit of a history of what it's like in Antarctica and other explorers that had gone down there and succeeded or maybe even failed. So that's Race to the Bottom of the Earth. All right, let's talk about some graphic novels. This first one is called Kaiju Girl Karma Lease, and this is written in the manga style of writing, so it's back to front. And this is about a girl named Kuro Akaisha. And I apologize again if I'm saying that incorrectly. Well, she has this disease that she tries to kind of keep under the radar and tries to keep kind of like, on the down low. But she has this crush. His name is Arata Minami. And it turns out that when she falls in love, she turns literally into a Godzilla-like creature. You can kind of see up at the top. And of course, this is horrifying to her. She doesn't want that to happen, so she's trying to avoid the boy that she likes. And this is the beginning of her story. Can you imagine if you turned into something every time you had a crush on someone? This one is the first in a series called Cutie and the Beast, also written in the manga style. And this is about a girl who, a lot of her friends just kind of like the pretty boys, but she has fallen for a huge wrestler who plays a bad guy, a villain in the wrestling world. But what people don't know is that he actually has quite a soft side. So if you're just looking for a nice Japanese romance story, you would enjoy Cutie and the Beast. The Phantom Twin is the story about Isabel and Jane, who have been traveling with a circus as the extraordinary Peabody sisters. They are conjoined you can kind of see they're conjoined with one arm and one leg. And what ends up happening is the surgeon decides that he's going to separate them. And unfortunately, Jane ends up dying in the surgery, and Isabel loses an arm and a leg. However, she's now being haunted by the ghost of her sister, and this is their story. Phantom Twin. Camp Spirit is the story about a girl named Elodie whose mom decides that she needs to get a job and says she not only needs to get a job, but she's going to do it at a summer camp. And Elodie does not really like nature. She doesn't really like being outside. She doesn't really enjoy kids. And now she's stuck, and this is a quote, with a foul-mouthed herd of red-headed girls who just are starting to grow on her when strange things start to happen at camp. It's called Camp Spirit. Space Boy is a story about a girl named Amy. And to Amy, everybody has a flavor. Like her mom is a cool mint. And she sees the world around her in a very different way. She lives in a mining colony years away from Earth, and her dad ends up losing their job and they have to return to Earth, which is going to take about 30 years in cryogenic sleep. And Amy is very unhappy about that. She's gonna miss out on her best friend Gemma growing up together. By the time she gets to Earth, Gemma will be 30 years older, and so she's really missing that. And when she gets back on Earth, she ends up meeting a strange boy who surprisingly has no flavor at all, and she's determined to find out why that is. So that's called Space Boy. Long Distance is another camp story, and this one is about Vega, whose family is moving from Portland, Oregon to Seattle, Washington, which she is devastated about. She does not want to go, and her mom decides that she needs to go to camp in order to make some friends before the school year starts. So she goes, and her cell phone dies, and then really weird things start to happen at camp. It's called Long Distance. And then the last graphic novel today is called The Hazards of Love. And this is about a girl named Amparo, who really is trying to fall in love with a girl. And they decide to make a deal with a talking cat. For one drop of blood, they will become a better person. Well, it turns out the cat was lying and sends Amparo to another dimension, and the cat assumes Amparo's life. And this is the story, The Hazards of Love. Enjoy.